What's up, y'all? It's your boy Jay Calderon, Stand Clear Entertainment, and we're about to get into this week's boxing talk. Over the weekend, we had a lot of boxing, and we're going to start off with Errol Spencer Jr. This kid right here is one of the hottest prospects in boxing today, and he fought a top 10 rated welterweight contender in Chris Van Helden, the same guy that was once considered to have a title shot against IBF welterweight champion Kell Brook and also Amir Khan. Now this dude fought Errol Spencer Jr. and Spencer, this kid looked phenomenal. He went in there and showed a very good, solid, quick jab with some very good hand speed. He controlled the pace of the fight, and he landed some excellent body punches to this guy. He basically broke him down. This was a tough South African fighter that came to fight, but just couldn't deal with the super talentedness of Errol Spencer. This guy was definitely on point, and he showed that he is something to really watch in the near future. And a lot of people have been talking about him. Mayweather had co-signed him, and he's been calling out Keith Thurman and stuff like that, but I really believe that he's not ready at this moment to face a Keith Thurman. People got to understand, Keith Thurman and him are basically almost the same age. They're about a year apart. But Keith Thurman was calling out Mayweather and Amir Khan for about 2 years. But he has faced better competition in those 2 years than Errol Spencer has in his entire career. He's faced the Julio Diaz, the Carlos Cantana. He's faced some good, solid fighters. And the biggest name on Keith Thurman's record right now is Robert Guerrero. Now, I believe that a Robert Guerrero fight against Errol Spence Jr. would be a great matchup and a great step up for him. This was a step up from all the other competitions that he had, and it was a good opponent, and he showed that he belongs in the future of boxing right now with his talent. He looked very poised, and he also looked like he is a very focused and no-nonsense fighter, and he has great potential. And I believe that he is also the future of boxing, one of the biggest stars in boxing that's going to come up. But they need to take time with him. They need to bring him up slowly, and I think Guerrero is the perfect matchup for him, and I hope they make that fight. But right now, I don't believe he should be fighting guys like Marcos Maidana or guys like Keith Thurman or even Sean Porter at this moment in time, because I think he needs a little bit more development. His boxing skills need to develop more. His defense has to get a little bit better, but he has a lot of weapons in his arsenal, and he is a very good fighter, and I can't wait to watch him again. Now, also, on that card, we had Prichard, a young, undefeated Puerto Rican fighter in the junior middleweight division of 154 pounds that demolished former world champion Vivian Harris. Now, Vivian Harris should not be fighting anymore. This guy needs to retire before he gets hurt. Prichard, it was a good victory for him. I like what they're doing with this kid. He's getting a lot of television exposure, and he basically did what he had to do. He went in there, he knocked out the former world champion. He looked really good doing it, and I can't wait to see him get into the ring with a better opponent and show what he really is made of. Now, also, the main event on that card on Spike TV, Premier Boxing Champions, was Adonis Superman Stevenson. He was in there with a guy that was totally overmatched, had no business being in the ring, Thomas Prichard. This guy got knocked out in the third round so easily. Basically, Al Heyman is just keeping Stevenson busy because he needs to stay active. The biggest fight that everybody wants to see is the Sergey Kovalev fight, and that fight is not going to happen. It's going to be another 5-year wait until it happens, like a Manny Pacquiao and a Floyd Mayweather, because the politics of boxing will not allow this fight to happen. Al Heyman is trying to get HBO and Kovalev's promoter into a bidding war so they could be able to outbid them and basically win the rights to the fight to promote Kovalev versus Stevenson. Nobody is scared of Kovalev. Everybody's saying that Adonis Stevenson is scared. He doesn't want to fight him. He's going to get knocked out. Actually, I believe that Adonis Stevenson could win that fight. It's a great fight. I like both guys. I want to see this fight happen, but I know the business of boxing is not going to allow it to happen unless main event which promotes Kovalev, forces HBO's hand to get into this bidding war and try to outbid Al Heyman and try basically to overprice themselves in this fight. Now, they feel like they should get the fight by default because Kovalev has a contract with HBO. And it's understandable that the fight should be on HBO because he has his contract. But if it's going to be on HBO, Al Heyman is going to try to force HBO to at least overprice themselves for this fight. Now, Al Heyman and his investors are probably going to outbid everyone for this fight. And that's the whole idea, is to get this fight on Premier Boxing Champions. That's where Al Heyman wants to have this fight. It's a great fight, but I don't see these guys fighting anytime soon. I mean, these guys are going to fight a bunch of overmatched fighters until, Kovalev gets to have Andre Ward, if HBO could push that, or, Stevenson is going to be matched up with, let's say, Arthur Benavidez. I mean, that's the only fights right there outside. Kovalev could fight a rematch with Pascal, and I think that's what they're going to basically do. But moving along, Saturday night, NBC, Premier Boxing Champions, they had a big card on that night. They also had this kid from New York, Marcus Browne, which he looked outstanding. He knocked out former world champion Gabriel Campillo. And, I mean, Campillo's another fighter that just should hang up the gloves before he gets hurt. I mean, he got knocked out in his last couple of fights, and this was just a blowout in the first round. I mean, Marcus Browne looks very good. This guy is very talented at 175 pounds. He's a light heavyweight, and I believe that the best fight for this guy right now as he comes up slowly in the rankings, I believe a fight with Yanisky Gonzalez, the guy that fought Jean Pascal on HBO a little while ago this year. I think that's a perfect matchup for Marcus Browne against Yanisky Gonzalez. I would love to see that fight. I wish that fight happens, but we have to see what Al Heyman is going to do with Marcus Browne, because the kid is very talented and he needs big fights. He needs to step up his competition and face better guys. Also on that card, we had K9 Bunridge, Cornelius K9 Bunridge. He took on one of the Charlo brothers, and it was just, a fight that we all knew it was going to go down that way. He got knocked out very easily. I mean, the Charlo brothers are talented young fighters at 154 pounds in the junior middleweight division, and he basically captured the IBF junior middleweight title when he defeated the old dog, K9 Bunridge. I mean, basically, it was just a one-sided fight. This guy is another guy that needs to hang it up. These guys are just hanging around boxing, trying to collect paychecks. And, he's had a good, solid career, winning the title twice, K9. But it's time to move on and retire. I mean, he doesn't have any fight left in that dog. But the Charlo brothers, they're on the rise. They're good fighters, and I hope to see them against better competition as well. All these Al Heyman fighters have been fighting a lot of soft touches. Like the main event of that night on that NBC card was Peter Kid Chocolate Quillin. This guy was in a fight against a dude from Australia that had no business being in that type of fight. This guy was outclassed, and he lasted 5 rounds when he should not have. I gave this guy about 2 rounds to last, and he lasted 5 rounds, and he landed some pretty good right-hand shots against Peter Quillin. And that told me something. That told me that Quillin is not as good as everybody thinks he is. I mean, Quillin basically knocked this guy out with a terrific punch and sent him out on a stretcher to the hospital. And now he's set up for a very big fight